I'm not going to give your quizzes back. They are graded. They are in RenWeb. But there's too many people that haven't taken them. So if you didn't take it yesterday, you're going to take it tomorrow. All right, but we don't have much time today, so I want to get going on this. Let me grab this graph. Okay, we started already. All right, let's take a look. You've seen this before. We're going to do a little bit more with this. Okay, we've talked about points and stuff like that. No, you stay right here. No, you stay here. All right, so we have an x-axis and we got a y-axis. All right, and what we're going to do, I'll tell you what, let's just do a very brief review right now. So what if I put a point right there and... Okay, what if I did this? Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1, 2, 3. Where is this point?
4, 3.
That's it. Okay, you write an ordered pair. You go to the right 4, and you go up 3. So there's 4, 3. All right? Pretty basic. So what we're going to do, what if I had another point, like right there? And what if I connected those points? Then what would I get? Well, what is this thing? What is that thing I just drew? Just a line, right? Okay, so I get a line. So if I connect 2 points, I can always get a line, correct? There's 2 things about this line that are important to me, all right? Not just to me, but to math people, okay? One is, let's put this in a different color. One is this point right here. Now, why did I pick that point right there? What do you think that point does? Well, it's not really the midpoint because you got a line. A line keeps on going forever, so there's really no midpoint of a line. So why did I pick that particular point right there? It's on the red line, but it's also where else? On the what? On the graph? On the what? Be specific. It's on the line that I drew, but it's also where else? On the y-axis, right. That's why I put that stuff here, okay? It's actually on the y-axis. We call that point right there, we go to special name, and we call it, somebody get the door, please. We call it the y-intercept. Okay? So it's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. It's a very important point. I got like 3 people, 4 people, no, 5. It's more than I thought, taking notes. Still, it's only about half the class. Everybody should be taking notes on this. All right, so this is the y-intercept right here, okay? What is the y-intercept? It's where the line crosses what? The what? The y-axis, that's right, okay? So it's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. Now right here, it doesn't cross like exactly at 1. It looks like about halfway, but that's what it is. All right, so one thing, there's 2 things that we're going to talk about when we talk about a line. Okay, the first thing is the y-intercept. All right, again, what is the y-intercept? It's the point where it crosses the y-axis. There's a second thing that we want to talk about when we talk about a line. Okay, it's how much it slants. We just finished talking about that. We just took a quiz on it yesterday. Okay, what's the word that we use in geometry when we talk about the slant of the line, how much it's slanted? What do we call that? The slope, okay? So here's another thing that we're going to talk about is the slope. So how would I find the slope? Well, if I knew this point right here and I knew this point right here, how can I find the slope? I just take the rise over the what? The run, okay? So this is rise and this is run. So what we're going to talk about, it may not make sense right now, okay, where I'm getting to, but it will in a minute. There's 2 things that I'm interested in. One is the y-intercept, okay? So if I look at a line, I look to see where it crosses the y-axis, okay? Wherever it crosses right here, that looks like about what? A half, right? Because if that's 1, this would be about a half. So the y-intercept would be about a half. And then you take a look at the slope, all right? So you figure out how much you rise, how much you run, all right? And that's the slope of that line. So those are two very, very important things. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put them together in one equation, all right? We're going to put it together in one equation. In fact, let me oops, don't want that. Let's just copy that. And let me show you what the equation is. You may have seen this equation before, maybe in Algebra 1. Probably you've seen it before. You tell me if it looks like something you've done before. Y equals mx plus b. Have you seen that before in Algebra 1? Yeah, it should be pretty familiar. It's an Algebra 1 topic, right? Even if you didn't see it in Algebra 1, you're going to learn it now, okay? I'm teaching it just like if I was going to teach an Algebra 1 class, right? There's two letters in here that are very, very important that we're talking about, okay? One is the m, which is the what? The slope, all right? The other, now it may not make sense. I'll tell you what, let's go back to this and talk about this a second. A lot of times we talk about where it crosses the x-axis as well. We're not really going to deal with that today. Some other time we might talk about the x-axis. Actually, we will talk about this tomorrow. We're going to talk about where it hits the x-axis. But a lot of times people would call this point A0. Right? So any point on the x-axis, a lot of math people call it A0. So what do you think they call this point right here on the x-axis? This would be 0 because you don't go anywhere on the x, but you go what? Either up or down. 0, what do you think? If we used A here, what do you think we use here? B. Good. Everybody see that? So a lot of math people use this point on the x-axis as A0, and any point on the y-axis, they call it 0b. All right? So let's go back to this. So I'm looking at this equation right here, and this equation tells me two things. And it tells me enough information to be able to draw a line, to draw a graph, right? A graph of a line. One thing is the slope. What do you think the b represents? We just talked about it. What do you think the b represents? Axle?
No, sorry.
First of all, it's axis, but it's not the x-axis. What is the b? No. Look, where is that point? What did we say that point was? It's the y what? It's a y-intercept. Okay? That point where the line crosses, that red line crosses the y-axis, that point right there is the what? The y-intercept. The y-intercept. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay? So what do you think that b represents? The y-intercept. Very good. All right? So the m is the slope. The b is the what? Y-intercept. I'll just shorten it. I'll just put int. So whenever you look at something, when you look at an equation in this form, for instance, if you had like y equals 3 halves x plus 1. What if you had this? Just looking at it, you should be able to tell what this represents. What does that represent on a line? The b, which is the what? The y-intercept. So that means our line is going to cross the y-axis where? At 1, positive 1. Okay, whatever that sign is. Okay, if it was a minus, it would be negative 1. All right, what else does this equation tell you? It tells you two things. It tells you the y-intercept, and it also tells you the what? The slope. So that right there is the slope. The slope is what? 3 over 2. This y equals mx plus b, we give it a fancy name, and I don't want to do that. We call it the slope intercept form. Okay, it's the slope intercept form. We're going to learn another form tomorrow. It's called the standard form. Usually we teach the standard form first. And even in my notes, I put the standard form first. As I was thinking about teaching this lesson, I thought it would be better to do the slope intercept form first, and then we'll go to the standard form, okay? But we'll do that tomorrow. So this is called the slope intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. The fancy name for it is the slope intercept form. Why is it called that? Is that just some random word that they picked? Of course not, because what does this form give you? It gives you the slope, which is the m, and it gives you the intercept. Which intercept, though? The y-intercept. Okay? So now, let's put it into practice. And let's use this. I'm going to use this graph right here. Put it here. And let's enlarge it a little bit so we can write on it, can graph on it. All right. So here's kind of the question that they might ask you. They might say graph, and they're going to give you an equation. It's going to be in slope-intercept form, okay? So let's just make one up. Y equals, let's make it real easy. Let's go 2/3 x. I don't know, let's go minus this time. Let's go minus 2, all right? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm asking you to graph this. You have to graph this. Well, you look at it, you're like, well, how do I even start? Well, the way I start is I look, first of all, at the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept? I'm going to even write it down right here. What's the y-intercept?
2.
It's 2. I'll put equals. It's not just 2, though. It's -2 because there's a minus sign in there, okay? So the y-intercept is -2. What does that mean? That means that's where our line does what? Right, it intersects the y-axis at -2. Everybody with me? Now, is that enough information to get one particular line? No, because I could have a point that intersects, let's change colors. I could have a point that intersects here, but my line, right, it could look like this, it could look like this, it could look like this. Would you agree? All those lines intersect the y-axis where? At -2, right? So is that enough? Just knowing the y-intercept, is that enough to graph one particular unique line? No, it's not. Okay? I need something else. And what do you think that something else is? That's exactly right. We're going to do the rise over the run. Okay? And what is the rise over the run? That's the slope. We use the letter M to represent slope. And what is the slope of this line? It's 2/3. That's right. Because remember, it's y equals what? mx plus b. All right? So the b is the y-intercept. Where is the b? It's that right there. It's -2. This is the m. What's the m? It's the slope. Everybody with me? All right, let's check this out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put another point, because all I need is one point, or one other point besides this one. I need 2 points to make a line. Would you agree? So I'm going to find the slope of 2/3. Well, where do I start? Well, I start at the y-intercept. So I put my pencil right there at the y-intercept, and then I do the slope, rise over run. So how far do I rise? 2. And how far do I run? 3. All right, so let's do that. We start where? Not at the beginning, not at the origin, but we start at the what? Intercept, okay?
When it runs, do you always go to the right?
Well, it depends. If it was negative, you go to the left, right? And same thing with rise. If it was a negative rise, you wouldn't go up, you'd go what? You go down, okay? So a positive rise means you go up, negative rise means you go down. A positive slope means you go to the, I'm sorry, not slope, but run. A positive run means you go to the right. A negative run means you go to the left. Make sense? All right. So this is positive and positive, correct? So I start where? At the y-intercept. Okay. Then I go up 2, 1, 2. And then I run how far? 3. 1, 2, 3. Now you can put your point. It's right there. Now, what can I do with that, with those 2 points? I can make a what out of it? Make a line. And that's the graph, right? That's exactly the graph. Now, sometimes, let me show you this. Sometimes, if those points are too close together, especially when you do it on your own paper, if you took a straight edge or a ruler and you connected them, sometimes it might be off a little this way, it might be off a little this way. You with me on that? If you make your dots like too big. And if they're too close together, it's really hard. So I like to stretch the points out a little bit just to make sure I get that nice, perfect straight line. So look what we can do. I can go from this point, and let's do the slope again. Let's rise 2 and run 3 again. And it should lie on the same line, shouldn't it? 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Everybody with me on that? So that stretches them out a little bit. Does it still look like it lies on the same line? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go the other way. Now watch. How could I go the other way? Because this says rise positive. But I could rise negative and then run what? Negative. Isn't that the same thing as positive 2/3? So look, let's start here and let's do this. Let's rise -2, means I go down 2, and then run -3. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Does it lie on the same line as all the other points? Absolutely. Let's do it one more time. Down 2, to the left 3. I just like to stretch them out a little bit. Do you have to do that? You don't have to, but if you want to be really careful and particular about it, then I would stretch it out. And look, make that line extend beyond the little graph, because it is a line. It keeps on going forever. That way we put arrows on there, and that's your answer. If I asked you, and which I will, on a quiz or a test in the homeworks, they're going to say, graph this thing right here. And that's all you have to know. You just have to look at it and say, oh, that's the y-intercept. So boom, I put a point, a dot at -2. And then the slope is 2/3. Oh, and stop eating in here. So it's a slope of 2/3. So you start at the y-intercept and you go up 2 and to the right 3. I do it a few times just to make sure I got a nice, my line is pointing in the correct direction. Okay? Let's do another one. We'll do it in a different color. Put it on the same graph. Let's just do this. What if I said y equals negative, 5/3 x plus 3. The x and the y stand for any point that lies on this line right here. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But the x and the y, right now, I had a teacher in college, he said it's kind of like window dressing. All right, it's just there to look nice. All right, it's just there so we can put a slope and a y-intercept there. That's not really true. It's not the only reason why it's there. But this x and y represents any point that lies on this line right here. Okay, we'll talk about that some other time. All right, let's just graph this thing right here. It's really not hard. It's very, very simple if you understand what these mean. So what do we look for first? Look for the one on the end. What is that? That's the what? The y-intercept. Right, it's the y-intercept. So what does that mean to us as far as graphing? On the y-axis, I go up to where? +3. 1, 2, 3, and I put a point, put a dot right there at +3. That's easy, isn't it? Everybody should be able to do that. Just look for that last number, whatever it is, you put a point right there. The next one's not quite as easy, but it's not that hard either. Okay, the next one is the slope. So we got to do the slope. Now, you can write -5/3 like this, -5 over +3, or you could write it 5 over -3. Isn't that the same thing? Yeah. So again, where do we start? Don't start at the beginning. Don't start at the origin. Start at the where? The y-intercept. And now let's do the first one, -5 over +3. So what's that mean we do? We count 5 down. Now, it doesn't mean we go down to -5. Everybody hear that? We just count down 5 places. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I go where? To the right, not just over, but to the right 3 places. And then you put a dot or a point right there. All right? You could do it again if you wanted to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. All right? Do they all line up? Yep. Looks like they all line up pretty good, don't they? All right. I'll just stretch this one out just a little bit further so it goes off the graph. You just don't want some little stubby line segment in here, okay? Make sure your line extends at least to the ends of your graph right there. And that's your answer. That's all you have to do, okay? So if it says to graph this, it's just a line, and that's all there is to it. We got a few more things to do, but we'll do that tomorrow. I'm not going to give you any homework. So on the lesson plan, it says you do have homework tonight, but I'm not going to give you any homework. We'll do that tomorrow, okay? I might leave out that worksheet. I don't know. It depends on how it goes tomorrow. All right, but that's it for today, and you don't have to worry about doing homework tonight. I'm not going to pass the quizzes back because there's too many people that haven't taken it yet, and I don't want the quizzes floating around when other people have to take it. If you did not take the quiz, we're going to take it tomorrow, okay? There's like 4, 5, or 6 of you, I think, that didn't take the quiz. So you'll do that tomorrow.